Part 118. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1171. The wood incarnation was like being pardoned. He also needed to make the final preparations, which was to collect the relatively precious spiritual medicines in the medicine garden in one place. When he left, he could collect all the spiritual medicines in one fell swoop on the isolated island. Anyway, he didn't plan to come back. At the same time, he needed to take all the necklaces with him. It was impossible for him to go to the Jaidan sect and leave the necklace in the medicine garden. As for whether he would come back in the future, it would be discussed later. On this side, Lian Changji waited until the wood incarnation left, and then asked Lian Changji, "Brother, the formation is complete, how about letting the sect master come and see it?" "No," Lian Changji shook his head and said, "let's wait for Chen Mu to recover and activate this formation again. At this moment, his soul is severely damaged, and I'm afraid he can't exert the maximum power of this formation." Lian Changji nodded and said, "Then what should we do next?" Lian Changji was silent for a moment and said, "Do whatever needs to be done." He also had his own plans, because the half-month time agreed with Sun Qiniang was almost up. Whether the other party can find Mengwei and De Go is actually not important to him. Because even if Mengwei is found, the sky fire belongs only to Lian Changfeng. But the dark longsword belongs to him. The Mahayana period dispersed, and Lian Changji also came to the outside of the sect. Under the gaze of the dragon and phoenix pillars, until the sunset, a pretty figure slowly came from a distance. "Jian Huang, you almost broke the appointment," Lian Changji said with displeasure. In fact, he was relieved in his heart, because he was afraid that Sun Qiniang would not come. "Senior, we agreed to meet today, but we didn't agree on the time of today." Sun Qiniang was very calm. After responding casually, she didn't say anything nonsense and said, "I think the senior has been waiting for a long time, so I won't waste any more words. Let's go directly into the 100 refining fire veins." As she said that, Sun Qiniang took a step in the air, floating 1 foot above the ground, and stepped on the fire phoenix with a pair of wonderful feet. "Sword Phoenix," Lian Changji pointed to the cliff without changing his expression, and said, "Please." He didn't like Sun Qiniang's attitude. But in order to seize the chaos sword, he naturally had to lower his posture. If Sun Qiniang ran away, he would have waited for half a month in vain. "Please." The two flew straight over the mountain gate, one after the other, and fell from the cliff, landing in the Balian fire vein. But no one knew that the phoenix pillar of the mountain gate was shaking uncontrollably. "Sword Phoenix, you only need to put the sword into the fire vein, and this elder will temper the sword for you as agreed, even if you didn't find Mengwei and Mengbeishi this time." Seeing Sun Qiniang standing still, but without any movement, Lian Changji couldn't help but feel anxious, and began to urge her. "What's the hurry?" Sun Qiniang was not in a hurry, and had no awareness of facing an opponent who was 2 realms higher than her. Instead, she said lightly, "I am communicating with the spirit sword. It will find a suitable place before I put it down." "Didn't you say, isn't this your friend's sword?" Lian Changji was stunned. "Why, my friend's sword? I can't communicate with the sword spirit." Sun Qiniang's question made Lian Changji speechless. With his attainments in the way of weapons, he naturally knew all kinds of weapon spirits. Generally speaking, except for weapon spirits that are extremely intelligent, they can never communicate with creatures other than their masters. Lian Changfeng became Nujiao's weapon spirit, and no one noticed anything wrong, which was also the reason. Sun Qiniang's words made Lian Changji immediately make 2 judgments in his heart. One is that Sun Qiniang was fooling him and plotting something, but obviously this possibility is very small. What the Balian sect can be known to outsiders is nothing more than the means of refining weapons. Then there is only the second one. This sword, not only did he not understand the mysteries of refining, but it also contained a sword spirit with extremely high intelligence. He guessed half of this correctly. But he could not guess anyway that the reason why the Chaos Sword could communicate with Sun Qiniang was because Sun Qiniang was a sword body. In addition, Sun Qiniang had integrated the 7 phoenix pearls from the Pearl Pavilion, and had a little bit of the aura of the Immortal Emperor and the Great Universe World, which also made the Chaos Sword feel close. In addition, for more than half a year, Sun Qiniang had been carrying the Chaos Sword on her back, holding it and talking about Zuyun from time to time, which made the Chaos Sword spirit believe in Sun Qiniang. So, it chose to help Sun Qiniang. It can be said that half of the reason why Sun Qiniang was named the Sword Phoenix came from the Chaos Sword. Otherwise, even if she was amazing and talented, what could she do if she was a sword body in the face of absolute realm pressure? The Chaos Sword was refined from the Chaos Stone of the Immortal Realm. Under the Immortal Realm, any pressure was useless to it. Of course, this function was not discovered by Zuyun, because Zuyun could not form a real connection with the Chaos Sword. Then Sword Phoenix, please do as you please. Although Xianxia was anxious, he knew that he could not eat hot tofu in a hurry. From this point of view, Sun Qiniang seemed to be going deeper, which was not a bad thing for him. The deeper you go from the Balian fire vein, the smaller the noise will be. But Xianxia still overlooked the most important point, that is, whether Sun Qiniang would let him control her. Finally back. Elder Zhu was covered in dust, and he did not look like a Mahayana at all. And behind him, there were several monks with stronger auras than him. Elder Zhu, this sect leader has not sensed the aura of the mountain protecting formation of the 100 Refiners section. Have you been fooled by the people of the 100 Refiners sect? The monk, who looked calm and confident, with a smoldering face, spoke with no hint of joy or anger. Sect Master, Elder Zhu said quickly, I have personally entered Chenmu's formation and witnessed all the changes in the formation. Those achievements are absolutely true. As for the fact that the formation has not yet been completed, I can only say the Balian sect's mountain protecting formation came into being from scratch. Isn't it too difficult to reach the stage of becoming a god? Humph, the sect leader snorted coldly and said, it's you, Zhu Changrong, who is loyal, and the mountain protecting formation is of great significance to our Jidan sect, otherwise the sect leader would not have put down the refined elixirs and come with you. Don't worry, sect leader, Zhu Changrong said with assurance, patting his chest, I made an agreement with their company commander Yu, and we will definitely make it happen this time. Okay, go to the mountain gate and let us know. The sect leader waved his hand, and Zhu Changrong immediately ran to the dragon and phoenix pillars and said to a disciple guarding the mountain gate, call your second elder or third elder to come over and tell me that I, Zhu Changrong, am here as promised. Facing the Mahayana period, the disciple guarding the mountain gate did not dare to neglect. After bowing repeatedly, he went in to report. After half a stick of incense was left, Company Changji hurriedly came out to greet him. Brother Zhu, you came here so fast. Xianxia was also surprised and confused. The other party actually shortened the 1-month journey by half. You can imagine how anxious the other party was. In this case, I will make the lion speak loudly later. Anyway, the sect leader said, everything is decided by ourselves. Brother Changji was joking, Zhu Changrong said politely, our sect master is already here. The company commander was not surprised by this, and quickly looked not far away. Sure enough, at the foot of the mountain, several old men who were at the peak of the late Mahayana were already standing there quietly. He glanced at it and hurriedly ran to the foot of the mountain in person. The Master Yao and several elders came to visit in person. It's really a sin to miss the long robes to welcome them from afar. Fellow Daoist Long Yi, Yao Jidao smiled calmly and said, we have business at hand, so naturally we don't dare to delay it. I heard that you have a boy whose attainments in the formation Dao are unparalleled in the spiritual world. We should personally welcome such a talent. Otherwise, wouldn't I give you Balian sect face? Master Yao is joking, that kid can only set up formations, he's not really a talent. Oh. Yao Jidao raised his eyebrows and said with a half smile, then why don't you tell fellow Taoist Changfeng and sell us the old wood? We are willing to give you 10,000 pills of hundreds of kinds, how about that? The company commander suddenly choked up. I was just joking. You don't follow the rules and say polite words but you mean it? Ha ha ha, Yao Jidao naturally saw the embarrassment of the company commander Yi, and couldn't help laughing, and said, let's talk to the section whether this matter is big or small, I will wait and see at the mountain gate. Besides, I'm afraid it will make other people laugh. Master Yao said, please come in. The company commander quietly wiped his sweat. Although there were no outsiders here, there were still many people from his sect who saw his deflated scene. Leading Yao Jidao and others all the way to the Foreign Affairs Hall, Yao Jidao frowned and said, fellow Taoist Changji, why don't you go to your sect master's hall? Isn't it possible that Chen Mu's matter is not worthy of my sect master and fellow Taoist Changfeng to talk about? No, no, company commander Yi said quickly, senior brother sect leader has recently made some achievements in refining weapons, and he is currently in the process of enlightenment. But before that, second senior brother and I reported the matter to him, and he said it's up to me and the second senior brother to make the final decision. But the second senior brother happens to be preparing for the formation, so we have no choice but to give in to Master Yao. If you think I'm wronged, you might as well offer a lower price to get a better deal. Yaji Dao was not polite and said, hundreds of kinds of elixirs, each with 1,000 pills. How about letting Chen Mu set up a mountain protecting formation for our Jiden sect? Didn't you say 10,000 pills before? With Bai missing 90%, the company commander was stunned. Fellow Daoist Chang Yi, the 10,000 pieces I mentioned just now are the price that your Bailian sect paid for giving up Chen Mu. 1/10 of this is the lease. Of course, if the Bailian sect is willing to give up, what Yao said before, it's totally worth it. This. Yao Jidao suddenly had the upper hand, and Lian Changji didn't even think about bargaining. He hesitated and said, how about I discuss it with my second senior brother? Fellow Daoist Chang Yi, please excuse me. We, the Ji Alchemy sect, have nothing to offer except elixirs. Yao Jidao seemed to wave his hand proudly, but in fact, he was telling the truth. Besides elixirs, what else can the Jidao sect have? Seeing the company commander running away in a hurry, Yao Jidao's expression turned grim. Chang Rong, did you hear anything about the company commander's situation last time you came here? They are both neutral sects, and they are also sects with the same mastery level. If Lin Zhongfeng breaks through to the tribulation stage, it will not be a good thing for their Jidan sect. Zhu Changrong shook his head and said, I heard a little bit about it, but I didn't see Lin Changfeng last time either. Yao Jidao pondered for a moment and then said, then tell me, how likely is it that Chen Mu will join our Jidan sect? 9 times out of 10, Zhu Changrong took a deep breath and said, I promised him to get a word from Patriarch Tianji, but who would have thought that this kid just came up from the mortal world and had never heard of Patriarch Tianji's name. But okay now, when he talked about the endless pills, he became very interested. If this boy really has some ability, if we in the Jiden sect keep him, we may have to activate the Yanhun powder in advance. This matter is very serious. Once it is used, there will be no turning back. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1172. Company Commander Yi left a group of monks from Jiden sect in the Foreign Affairs Hall, while he went to the Internal Affairs Hall to look for Company Commander Yu. However, I searched the Internal Affairs Hall but found no one, including Captain Yu. I also asked many disciples of the Internal Affairs Hall, but I also didn't know where he was. I thought to myself, could it be that the second senior brother went to the sect leader to talk about the mountain protection formation? Thinking of this, he turned to the sect leader's hall. Long Yi, what are you doing here? In the sect master's hall, Company Commander Feng looked at Company Commander Yi indifferently. Back to the sect leader, the company commander said respectfully, the people from the Jiden sect are discussing Chen Mu. The junior brother wanted to discuss it with the second senior brother, but after searching all over the sect, he didn't know where he had gone, so he came here. When he finished speaking, he secretly glanced at Nu Jiao, who was standing beside Company Commander Feng. Chang Yu is not here with me either, Lin Changfeng said, but I happen to have nothing to do, so I can meet someone from the Jidan sect. Nu Jiao had just finished refining the spirit sword, and it would take some time before refining it next time. She felt a little idle, so she decided to meet the people from Jidan sect. She had recultivated her life, but she was actually quite new to cultivation. And Jidan sect is proficient in alchemy, and maybe she can get some elixirs suitable for her to use, which would be great. That couldn't be better. After all, the company commander Yi is the third elder. He is somewhat afraid that he will not be able to make the decision, which will make the second senior brother dissatisfied. Now that the sect leader is taking action, whether the matter succeeds or fails, it is none of his business. Company Commander Feng was leaving, and Nu Jiao naturally followed him. Company Commander Yi couldn't help but be slightly startled, and hesitated to speak. How? Company Commander Feng asked. Senior brother, is it inappropriate to take her there? After all, the master of Jiden sect and a group of elders are here, and we. The words are not finished, but the meaning is self-evident. This is an occasion that is not suitable for people of Nu Jiao's level to go there, so as not to make the people of Jiden sect dissatisfied. Although they are not afraid of the Jidan sect, after all, they want to get more benefits. What's wrong? Nu Jiao sneered in her heart and controlled the company commander to say without doubt, if they are not satisfied, Chen Mu doesn't have to go. After that, the company commander strode away, and Nu Jiao followed closely behind him like a maid. At the same time, deep in the Balian fire veins, Sun Qiniang finally found a suitable location. This is the widest spot in the entire fire vein, and the smoothest flow of fire power. That's it? Sun Qiniang said calmly. Sword Phoenix, you can't go back on your choice. Company Commander Yu was filled with concentration and forced himself to remain calm. As long as Sun Qiniang puts the Chaos Sword into it, he will wait for his move. This place is far away from the ground, and even if Sun Qiniang can make a huge noise, she may not have enough time to spread it to the ground. What's there to regret about this? Sun Qiniang smiled sweetly. She could not tell that Company Commander Yu had evil intentions, but she relied on being able to communicate with the Chaos Sword Spirit, so she was not afraid. Although she is in the stage of transforming into a god, she is by no means as simple as an ordinary stage of transforming into a god. The power that caused her breakthrough was actually the spiritual power of the Zhangdao Master. However, with the help of Yayuan, she fused the 7 Phoenix Pearls, and with the help of the Chaos Sword Spirit, she was not too afraid of Lian Changjiao. But the problem is that Company Commander Yu is already murderous. Sword Phoenix, after this sword is tempered, what are your plans? Company Commander Yu began to talk about it, trying to get Sun Qiniang to distract herself. He was also a cautious person and wanted to make sure nothing went wrong. I heard that the secret realm of Xianxia is about to be opened. I want to take this sword to the secret realm of Xianxia to have a look. Maybe I can find something good. The entire spiritual world is talking about this matter, and Sun Qiniang is doing as the Romans do. Oh? I wonder if Jian Huang is interested in cooperating with our 100 refining sect. Company Commander Yu's eyes lit up. If Sun Qinyang was willing, she could postpone her plan to kill people and seize the treasure. Like their Balian sect, to be honest, their combat power is really not strong enough. And Sun Qinyang is not only a sword cultivator, but also has the strength to kill monks in the same realm, and can even kill enemies by leapfrogging. If she follows him to the secret realm of immortality, she can achieve a surprise victory when encountering enemies. The Balian sect has so many Mahayana periods, why do you still want to cooperate with me, a casual cultivator? Sun Qinyang drew out the chaos sword and did not throw it directly into the fire veins. Instead, she asked curiously. It's not because of curiosity about Company Commander Yu's proposal, but because of the kindness shown by the other party. As we all know, Company Commander Yu stroked his beard, smiled heartily, and said, as we all know, our Balian sect makes a living by refining weapons, and we have very few magical powers and spells that can be used to kill enemies. If there is such a stunning and outstanding sword as Sword Phoenix Senior, I think it will be a great help to us. And Jian Huang, you can also be our backup, why not? Sun Qinyang smiled sweetly and said, cooperation is not impossible, but the question is, what benefits will Balian sect give? Company Commander Yu said, this time, let your friend's sword enter the 100 refining fire veins for tempering, but next time, you can put your natal spiritual sword into the fire veins. Sword Phoenix, this suggestion should be good, right? Or, we only accept one set of materials to refine the spirit sword you want. Sun Qinyang smiled and asked, then if I want a sword, why don't I go to Sword Valley? Although Sword Valley is not as good as Balian sect in refining magical weapons, it is the best in refining spiritual swords in the spiritual world. The second elder, can you guarantee that the spiritual sword you refine for me is stronger than that of Sword Valley? This. Company Commander Yu was speechless, because what Sun Qinyang explained was a fact. The Balian sect is indeed good at one thing, but Jiangu is even better at one thing. So, when my senior brother breaks through the tribulation stage, I will ask him to personally refine a spiritual sword for you, how about it? You know, although Jiangu's sword making is stronger than our Balian sect, the problem is that after the incident of the Immortal Ascension platform, the strongest person in Jiangu is only in the nascent soul stage. I heard that it was their branch disciple from the Eastern mortal realm. Therefore, there is no doubt that Jiangu has fallen, and Jian Huang must have heard about it. Sun Qinyang really didn't know what happened to Jiangu, and she didn't know that Jiangu had been destroyed by Xianxia. But Jiangu has an irreconcilable hatred for her. It's true that she went to the Ascension Secret Realm, but after the Ascension Secret Realm, she went to Jiangu to avenge her blood feud. Sun Qinyang clearly distinguishes between gratitude and resentment, and her character of taking pleasure in gratitude and revenge has always been like this. However, compared to Zuyun, who killed her two brothers on the spot, she was much better. Therefore, because of Ye Yuan, she did not hate Feng and He, but put all the blame on Jiangu. But she was a little surprised that the disciples from Dongfan realm took control of Jiangu. What the second elder said is true, but it is too early to open the secret realm of ascension. I should have some time to think about it, right? Sun Qinyang did not say it firmly, and then threw the chaos sword into the fire vein. Okay, if Jian Huang needs it, you can send me a message at any time. Lian Changjiao's killing intention was gone. He was also seeking greater benefits. He could see that he had persuaded Sun Qinyang, so he took out a jade pendant and handed it over, the sound transmission jade. You infuse spiritual power, and speak to this jade, and I can hear it. Sun Qinyang was not polite, took it and stuffed it into her arms, and watched Lian Changjiao start to control the fire art, leading the fire power in the fire vein, all rushing towards the chaos sword. At the same time, he also poured all his soul into the fire veins, so as to take the opportunity to observe what changes would occur in the chaos sword during the tempering. Foreign Affairs Hall. Brother Chang Feng, I haven't seen you for many years, but I never thought that you also found a Taoist partner. Seeing Nujiao following Lian Changfeng respectfully, Yao Jidao mistook her identity. That's right, generally speaking, who would bring a female cultivator of such a low realm to such an occasion? Unless, it's a Taoist partner. Yao Jidao naturally thought so. A hint of coldness flashed in Nujiao's eyes, but she pretended to keep her head down and was not discovered. For her, no one among all the cultivators in Huangmingxing could match her. Stop talking nonsense, let's talk business. Lian Changfeng waved his hand without being polite, which was of course influenced by Nujiao. Yao Jidao was embarrassed by the cold reception. He stepped back with a little dissatisfaction on his face and said, Jiden sect is willing to offer 1,000 pills in exchange for Chen Mu setting up a formation for our Jiden sect. 1,000. Lian Changfeng sneered and said, Chen Mu is a treasure of our Balian section. 1,000 pills is too much of a disregard for our Balian sect. 10,000, otherwise there is no room for negotiation. Lian Changfeng, you are sure that our Jiden sect does not have a mountain protection formation? Yao Jidao was immediately furious. You ask for a high price, but you pay low. You are asking for something from me. If you can accept this price, we will release you. Lian Changfeng, as the leader of Balian sect, you know the reason why we have a mountain protection formation. Every 1,000 years, we will lose hundreds of pills at most. And I offer 10,000 pills in exchange for a mountain protection formation. Do you think we are enemies? Lian Changfeng sneered and said, what you lose has nothing to do with us. Chen Mu is from Balian section. It's enough for you to come and talk, which means that our Balian sect and Jiden sect have made good friends. You are so good, Lian Changfeng. Yao Jidao laughed in anger, aren't you afraid that we will rob Chen Mu? Lian Changji laughed, stepped forward and said, Chen Mu is now in the formation he arranged by himself. I think Elder Zhu has also tried the power of that formation himself. If you really want to rob him, do you still need Chen Mu to arrange the formation for you? Also, don't think that our Balian sect is a vegetarian. The two sides were on the verge of a fight, but no one wanted to fight. Nujiao wanted to overwhelm the other party in momentum first, and this is also her strong character. Except for the immortal emperor who could suppress her, no one would take it seriously. In the immortal mansion, it was the side of things that reminded her of someone, and the knot in her heart was not resolved. But once she left the immortal mansion, in this lower world, the arrogance of the demon saint naturally came out from her bones. Just when they were deadlocked, a figure suddenly broke into the Foreign Affairs Hall. What a coincidence, it was the incarnation of Wood. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1173. Chen Mu, what are you doing here? Lian Changji felt something was wrong and shouted. Elder Zhu also spoke anxiously, saying, Chen Mu, come to me. Mu Huashan had actually received the news, but he didn't expect the people from Jidan sect to come so quickly, but this also showed the sincerity of Jidan sect. So he quickly cleaned up the medicine garden and stuffed all the useful spiritual medicines into it, and then ran over. He was really ready to run away. But he never expected that there would be a stalemate here, and there was a situation where they would fight if they disagreed. Didn't Elder Zhu say that he would bring the sect master here and try his best to meet the conditions of Balian sect? But he was not stupid. Looking at the atmosphere here, even a fool could see it. Just when he decided to lean towards Jidan sect, he suddenly looked at Nujiao, who was not far behind Lian Changfeng from the corner of his eye. The face could not be seen, but the familiar figure seemed to be engraved in Mu Huashan's mind. Nujiao. Mu Huashan screamed in shock. He could never have imagined that in such an occasion, he would meet the person he least wanted to see. Originally, he thought Nu Jiao had already gotten what she wanted and left Balian sect. Zuyun, I didn't expect you to be here too. Nu Jiao raised her head and smiled slightly, and the disguise on her face disappeared instantly. But the one who was far more surprised than Mu Huashan was Lian Changji. Mengwei. Lian Changji's face was full of disbelief, and his figure staggered back a few steps. Suddenly, as if he remembered something, he turned back and looked at Lian Changfeng. Who knew that at this time, Nu Jiao moved, and saw her slender hand turn, and the spirit knife shot out. With the sound of breaking through the air, Lian Changji came back to his senses in fear, only to see a touch of strange red light. He quickly dodged, but found that Lian Changfeng showed a hideous face, took over the red light and danced, and then went straight to his lower abdomen. Puff! The spirit knife entered his stomach and began to absorb the blood of Lian Changji crazily. This sudden change shocked the people of Jiden section. Why did their fellow disciples start killing each other? Yao Jidao was experienced and calm. He immediately made a gesture, and the Mahayana disciples who were traveling with him slowly retreated with vigilance. Mu Huashan didn't know why this happened, but he also knew that it was not suitable to stay here for a long time, so he retreated with the people of Jiden sect. Zuyun, where are you going? Nu Jiao turned her head suddenly and spoke in a tender voice. Her soul-stirring eyes seemed to see through what he was thinking. Nu Jiao, what do you mean? Mu Huashan asked calmly. But Nu Jiao said something shocking. Where is Mengwei? What Mengwei? I don't know. Mu Huashan denied it flatly. Zuyun, you can't fool me. I hate it most when people fool me. Nu Jiao shook her head, pointed at her own eyes, and said, although I was able to practice the divine eye technique with these eyes thanks to you, you are wrong for hiding a lot of information from me. Mu Huashan said loudly, Nu Jiao, I not only let you practice the divine eye technique, but also saved your life. Are you trying to repay kindness with evil? Don't change the subject. Nu Jiao suddenly stepped forward and said, if you want to fool me, then don't even think about leaving today. Changfeng, catch Zuyun. As soon as the voice fell, Lian Changfeng suddenly made a strange pose. He turned his body, and the red light that fell into Lian Changji's lower abdomen flew out and fell into his hands, flying towards Mu Huashan. Mu Huashan was horrified. Not to mention the speed of the knife, even Changfeng, who was in the Mahayana period, was summoned by her. How could he fight in a head-on battle? Who would have thought that at this moment, a flame suddenly flew out from behind him, rushing towards the red light? It was Yao Jidao. Chen Mu, Zuyun, forget it, I don't know your name, come to me quickly. Yao Jidao used his spiritual fire to buy time for the wood incarnation. The wood incarnation came to his senses and quickly fled from the main hall of the inner affairs hall. Nu Jiao shouted, you dare to stop me with just a Mahayana period. Before she finished speaking, a golden light flashed in Nu Jiao's eyes, and at the same time, a weird scene happened. Lian Changfeng, who was holding the magic knife, suddenly turned into a black shadow and drilled into the magic knife, and then, like a butterfly flying through flowers, he passed through layers of fire and attacked Yao Jidao's face. Not good, Senior Yao, get out of the way. Although the wood incarnation couldn't see the magic knife's path clearly, the swordsmanship that Nu Jiao learned was the evolution of her original magic knife and the Wuji sword technique. Wuji sword art, attack the weak points. But the reminder of the wood incarnation was too late. The magic knife had already been inserted into the center of Yao Jidao's eyebrows. The sea of fire retreated. With a plop, Yao Jidao fell to the ground with a bang, his eyes revealing a strong unwillingness, and he didn't understand why he couldn't escape until his death. And the wood incarnation was even more terrified. It had only been a short time since they separated, and Nujiao's swordsmanship was so terrifying. For a moment, he regretted why he had taught Nujiao the essence of Wuji sword art at that time. He didn't expect that in fact, Nujiao's strength skyrocketed, all because of this knife. The knife is strong, and the knife spirit is stronger. With the combination of the two strong forces, it is not a problem to kill a Mahayana period by surprise. Master. Senior brother. Everyone in the Jiden sect was stunned. They didn't expect that it would be such a result. My own sect leader, who is at the peak of the late Mahayana period, can't even take a single move. Nujiao, you actually. Mu's chest rose and fell violently, and what he didn't expect was that Nujiao would kill so decisively, completely unlike Nujiao in the Immortal Mansion. As everyone knows, Nujiao is originally a demon and has an innate idea of being an enemy of the human race. Not to mention, to her, this is actually the lower world. These creatures are all ants. Zuyun, surrender to me. Nujiao suddenly said ferociously, stretched out her hands, and her golden eyes shrouded the wooden incarnation at the same time. But this strength is far inferior to the breadth of the magic knife. Immediately, Mu Jianyuan woke up and remembered the situation when Company Commander Feng rushed into the knife. Nujiao, if you want to catch me, you are still too young. Mu Jiawa suddenly took out the Bai Chi staff from his arms and inserted it into Yao Jideo's lower abdomen. Endless vitality surged out, and then was swallowed by the magic knife. He found the key point and used Bai Kai's staff to hold back the magic knife, so Nujiao would have nothing to fear. Back then, Ergu was captured to mine. Later, when they met, they mentioned Menghui's magic knife, which had the effect of absorbing Monk's essence, blood, and various spiritual powers. At this time, Mu Incarnation thought about it, and Nujiao rebuilt the magic knife. It must have such a function, and it was also the same with the company commander's coat he had just absorbed. Then he had an idea and chose to use the Baichi staff to hold the magic knife. Zuyun, do you dare to be my enemy? Nu Jiao was also greatly surprised to see Mu Jianying dare to resist. She focused her eyes and wanted to control the magic sword. But who would have thought that the magic sword only trembled a few times and then stayed in the Yaejideo? His body remained unmoved. Now, Nu Jiao was a little anxious. First, her magic sword was not completely refined and was possessed by demonic nature. Secondly, Daoling Company Chang Feng also wanted to take this opportunity to escape from control. He doesn't want to be Nujiao's puppet. Zuyun, you are looking for death. Nujiao was furious, clenched her fists and beat her chest hard. A jet black blood arrow suddenly spurted out and shot towards the magic knife. Chi! The magic knife filled with black smoke and filled the surrounding area. How can the demonic ways of my holy demon clan be something you, the ants in the lower world, can imagine? The black smoke is entangled and strange, and everything it touches turns into black water. Mu Jiawa was frightened again. How could he dare to stay where he was? Run. He made a prompt decision, turned around and ran out of the lobby, but he plunged into the crowd of Jiden sect. Why don't you run away and stay here to die? The wooden incarnation didn't care about the geometry of these realms, so he couldn't help but yelled angrily. Run? Our sect leader died inside, we want revenge. Elder Zhu had veins on his forehead and a scowl on his face. Another old man said, they are just demonic monks using weird magic skills. Although our Jiden sect is not very good, we have a lot of tricks. Yes, it's time to activate the effect of Yan Hunsen. I want all the monks from the 100 Refiners sect to be buried with him. This is a tribute to our sect master. The smoke is gone. Mu Jiawa was stunned for a moment. As expected, Yan Hunsan had another conspiracy. And he had also taken a soul-shaping pill containing Yan Hunsen. Just when he was shocked, the old man, the second elder of Jiden sect, suddenly took out a 10,000-year-old Yan Hunsen. Before the wooden incarnation could react, the old man condensed a flame in his left hand and began to burn a bud of Jan Hunsen. The same black smoke spread out in all directions. Mujiawa felt as if a worm suddenly moved in his zifu, and then a heartbreaking pain spread throughout his body, as if it was trying to control him. Is this the effect of Jan Hunsen? It hurts, it hurts. Mujiawa held his head uncontrollably and kept rolling on the ground. Not only him, but even the company commander Yu, who was controlling the fire veins to temper the chaos sword in the 100 refining fire vein, also suddenly acted like this, crying for his father and mother on the ground. His symptoms were far more severe than those of the wood avatar. Because he has taken elixirs from the Jidan sect for thousands of years, more smoke souls are scattered in the Zi mansion. Sun Qingyang stared at the scene blankly, as if she suddenly thought of something in her mind condensed, and the chaos sword suddenly flew out from the sea of fire. At the same time, Baichi's staff lost control and stopped releasing vitality. As a result, the magic knife escaped from its trap and flew back to Nujiao's hand. Because Nujiao has never taken Jan Hunsen. God help me. Today, let all the ants from Balian sect, plus people like Balian sect, make my magic sword. She turned around, rushed out of the foreign affairs hall with a knife, and stabbed a Mahayana disciple with the knife. No one could have imagined that when the wooden incarnation was rolling around and crying out in pain, Nujiao would sneak up on him and a Mahayana disciple was immediately stabbed, and his essence, blood, and vitality were swallowed up in an instant. Nujiao succeeded with one move, withdrew the magic knife and shot it at Elder Zhu. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1174. Nu Jiao had no other concerns. She threatened to kill 2 Mahayana masters in succession, and then killed the rest of the Mahayana masters in succession. Because every time the magic sword kills a person, it will absorb blood and vitality, and the more it absorbs, the stronger it will be. Moreover, in order to activate the smoke soul powder, the people of Jidan Zone stood still like scarecrows. Nu Jiao's eyes flashed with murderous intent, which was simply the best. But she overlooked one point: the smoke soul powder in the purple mansion of the wood incarnation was very little. Just as she drew her sword, the pain of cutting the soul suddenly disappeared, and the wood incarnation felt extremely relaxed and stood up suddenly. Elder Zhu, retreat! He roared, and quickly pinched a spell in his hand. A green light flashed, and the Bai Chi staff had already appeared in his hand. Wu Ji sword art. Without a sword in his hand, flying flowers and picking leaves can all be swords, not to mention that this Bai Chi staff was made of heavenly fire. In essence, it is much stronger than Nu Jiao's magic sword. Dang! With a crisp sound, metal and iron clashed, and the tip of Bai Kai's staff hit the tip of the magic knife. Zhu Yun, you are looking for death. The golden light in Nu Jiao's eyes suddenly changed, from gold to dark, and even revealed a faint demonic aura. Not good. The wood incarnation seemed to fall into a deep abyss, as if escaping into the void. He did not expect that although Nu Jiao's realm was not as good as his, the way of the magic eye was unpredictable and far beyond his imagination. No. When he felt his body lose weight and kept falling, the wood incarnation suddenly woke up. Nu Jiao, this is not a magic eye, this is a magic method to drive the magic eye technique. In this case, I will break it with the magic eye technique. All kinds of falsehoods, break them all for me. Instantly, the eyes of the wood incarnation also bloomed, and the wood spirit power in his body also quickly lost. Because the original magic eye technique needs the power of chaos to drive, but the wood incarnation has only wood spirit power in its body. But fortunately, The 5 kinds of spiritual power can all be transformed. For the wood incarnation, which only has the wood attribute, it is not impossible to transform, but it is a little difficult. The most critical point is that the consumption increases exponentially. But if it is not broken at this time, let alone taking care of the Jiden sect, even he himself may be killed. Soon, green light quickly appeared in the eyes of the wood incarnation. The green light turned into golden light, gradually penetrating the barrier of the abyss, and it can be seen faintly that he is still in the same place. The Bai Chi staff is still on top of the magic knife, just like before in Yao Jideo's body, constantly releasing the power of vitality, and the magic knife is also constantly devouring and absorbing. Another stalemate. Zuyun, I didn't expect that you, an incarnation, can also use the divine eye technique. Nu Jiao was also very surprised to find the changes in the wood incarnation. The wood incarnation had actually guessed her method, but Nu Jiao didn't know it. Get out of the way. The wood incarnation had no time to respond to Nu Jiao's words, and continued to speak to the group of Jiden sect monks beside him. But obviously, no one was willing to move. The second elder, who used his spiritual fire to continuously activate the smoke soul powder, did not even look at him, and vowed to let the entire Balian sect be buried with him. Except for Zhu Changrong, no one moved. The wood incarnation gritted his teeth, but he could not do anything. Since you are willing to wait for death, I am not willing to die with you. It is true that the Jiden sect can give him great benefits, but compared with life and death, the wood incarnation can still distinguish clearly. Nu Jiao, close your eyes. The Bai Chi staff and the demon knife were in a stalemate. After the wood incarnation broke the illusion of the demon eye, he suddenly stretched out his left hand and put out 2 fingers, and a majestic wood spirit sword energy came out, which was the sword energy released. At such a close distance, Nu Jiao had no way to avoid it, not to mention that the wood incarnation knew that Nu Jiao's ability was all in her eyes, so the sword energy was directed at her eyes. If you use the Wuji sword technique, I would be a little bit afraid. But your crude sword energy can't hurt me at all. Nu Jiao sneered disdainfully, and with just a blink of her right eye, a red light burst out, instantly dissolving the wood incarnation's Muling sword energy. At the same time, the red light took advantage of the momentum and attacked the wood incarnation's eyes. So fast! The wood incarnation exclaimed and immediately dodged, but he never thought that Nu Jiao's target was not him at all, but Zhu Changrong, who was facing away from him. Zhu Changrong groaned and fell to the ground immediately, with blood gushing from his shoulders. The wood incarnation was shocked. Could it be that Nu Jiao's magic power was perfect? How could this look break the physical body of the Mahayana period? If she were to continue with her current state of mind, the spirit world would probably suffer a great disaster, far more terrifying than those evil immortals. Nu Jiao, I shouldn't have let you out. Mu Huashen's eyes were about to burst. He didn't expect that Nu Jiao at this moment was completely different from the one in the Immortal Palace. To say regret? Of course there is. But more of it is fortunate. Because he didn't let Nu Jiao meet Meng Wuya. He had a guess that Meng Wuya must be the transformation of the magic eyes. If the magic eyes return to Nu Jiao's body, I'm afraid no one in the lower world can stop it. And when he thought of Meng Wuya, Mu Huashen had an idea in his mind. Meng Wuya was in the Great Universe Island, and he couldn't take Nu Jiao in, but that magic knife. Without the magic knife, Nu Jiao was like a tigress with no teeth, and she could no longer threaten the Mahayana period of the Jidan sect. But in order to take the magic knife in, he must touch the magic knife. With this thought, the wood incarnation began to control the Bai Chi staff, slowly leading the demon knife closer to himself, just waiting for an opportunity to grab the demon knife in one fell swoop, and he could do so while Nu Jiao was still not reacting. Zuyun, it's not a wrong thing to let me out. The only thing you did wrong is that you chose to be my enemy. Nu Jiao's face was fierce, as if the wood incarnation had a past that she couldn't bear to look back on. And the wood incarnation already knew that there was no possibility of reconciliation between him and Nu Xiao. This enemy that he had created out of thin air must be solved by himself, starting with her demon knife. As the wood spirit power in her body madly passed away, Nu Xiao was not at all confused, because the demon knife was devouring the vitality released by the Bai Chi staff, and these vitality could be used by her through the demon knife. As one grows, the other loses. For Nu Xiao, these people can't escape her slaughter at all. If it weren't for the threat of the wood spirit sword Qi of the wood incarnation, those people from the Jidan sect would probably have been seriously injured here. However, this is also good, at least she can kill someone with a borrowed knife. With the help of the Yan Hunsen of the Jidan sect, all the people of the Balian sect will no longer be able to fight back. In the future, all of these are now flesh and blood and vitality. Nu Jiao was no longer in a hurry, and a mocking smile appeared on her face. She even thought about how to get the location of the body from this incarnation, and then take the Daoliuli mirror and control it herself. At that time, not only can she find the news of the immortal emperor to help him avenge, but she may even be able to unify the southern region of the immortal realm and become the only female emperor in the history of the immortal realm. Nu Jiao felt that the overall situation was settled, and she did not notice the small movements of the wooden incarnation at all. But as time passed, when the wooden incarnation was just a few feet away from the magic knife and could hold it with his hand, a delicate shout suddenly fell from the sky. "Mengwei, you dare to hurt Zuyun!" It was Sun Qiniang. As the voice fell, a blue and purple sword light came from the sky and rushed towards Nu Jiao. When she heard the name again and felt the unrivaled sword energy, Nu Jiao was extremely surprised and quickly dodged and retreated. She felt threatened, so she bit her tongue, spit out a mouthful of magic blood, and forcibly summoned the magic knife back. "Who are you?" After dodging the wind and thunder sword light, Nu Jiao stood still, looking at the stunning girl who was half standing in the air and stepping on two phoenixes. Her face was extremely ugly. "Mengwei, you can't recognize me." Sun Qiniang was even more surprised, but turned to look at Mu Huashan. "And Zuyun, you despised my weak realm back then, but you didn't expect that I not only caught up with you in realm, but also saved you." Mu Huashan smiled bitterly and said, "Qiniang, she is not Wei." Huh. Now, Sun Qiniang was also stunned. Nu Jiao laughed strangely, "That's right, I'm not Mengwei, but you're not Zuyun either." Sun Qiniang frowned, pointed the wind and thunder dragon sword in her hand at Nu Jiao, and sneered, "I'm talking to Zuyun, why is it your turn to speak?" What a domineering girl! Nu Jiao secretly praised in her heart, because before she surrendered to the immortal emperor, she was also like this in the Holy Demon clan. At this time, the words of the wood incarnation also rang out. "Qiniang, kill her." Nu Jiao and Sun Qiniang looked at each other, both with strange expressions on their faces. Sun Qiniang said, "Zuyun, why do you think you can order me?" Nu Jiao even laughed, "Zuyun, Zuyun, I thought you were very powerful, but it turns out that you can't even control a female sword cultivator. This is far worse than him." Sun Qiniang turned her hand and slashed at Nu Jiao with a sword. "Is it your turn to interrupt? I will kill you if you don't listen to him, but that doesn't mean I won't kill you if you provoke me." The wind spirit is mixed with the power of thunder, which has a strong deterrent power for demon cultivators. Nu Jiao not only retreated, but also recalled her magic knife to protect herself. The wood incarnation gritted her teeth. "If my original body was still there, I could knock you down within 3 breaths and let you know how powerful I am. How could you be so arrogant? Not to mention, your sudden appearance interrupted my backhand, and how could I deal with Nu Jiao now? Who are they?" Sun Qiniang did not seem to have the intention to kill Nu Jiao. Instead, she fell down and pointed at a group of people from Jidan sect and asked. At this time, Zhu Changrong also trembled and climbed up from the ground, gritted his teeth and said, "May I ask the fairy, is it the sword phoenix? There are far more cultivators traveling to Jiden sect than Balian sect, and Zhu Changrong is walking outside and hears more news than others. Using the wind and thunder sword and stepping on the two phoenixes, this is the characteristic of the sword phoenix." The wood incarnation also widened his eyes suddenly and said in disbelief, "Are you the sword phoenix?" He. Seeing the surprised reaction of the wood incarnation, Sun Qinyang laughed continuously, almost out of breath, and seemed to ignore the situation here. The wood incarnation was immediately very angry and said angrily, "I don't care whether you are the sword phoenix or not, you ruined my good things, I will settle accounts with you later. Now, you kill Nujiao first, otherwise there will be endless troubles." Zhu Changrong also said repeatedly, "Fairy sword phoenix, if you can kill that witch, our Jiden sect will definitely reward you heavily." Zhu Changrong saw more clearly than the other Mahayana period, and knew that Nujiao was definitely not someone who could easily be compared to him. Even if his second elder used the smoke soul powder to let Balian sect be buried with him, it had nothing to do with Nujiao. It would not affect her at all. Jiden sect. Sun Qinyang glanced at Zhu Changrong calmly, then turned to look at the wooden incarnation and said, "You can handle your own affairs yourself. Otherwise, how about you come and beg me? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1175. Sun Qinyang. I am just an incarnation of my true body now. If I can kill it easily, will it be your turn to save it? I finally succeeded, but you ruined my good deeds. Mujiawa scolded angrily, but Sun Qinyang turned a deaf ear and instead stretched out her hand towards him. "Why, are you still going to attack me?" Mu incarnation was so angry that he wanted to use Bai Kai's staff to hit him, but he also knew that there was not much wood spirit power in his body, so he couldn't waste it on Sun Qinyang. Nujiao is still watching eagerly from the side. And he knew even more that the reason why Nujiao didn't leave was because she valued the flesh and blood and vitality of everyone present. Only in this way will she be stronger. She must also put her magic sword into the universe here. "I'm not attacking you, I'm just showing you a baby." Sun Qinyang smiled coquettishly and made an empty fist with her outstretched hand. The red lips parted slightly. "Here comes the sword." Wow! A dark shadow suddenly appeared on the mountain peak not far away. The black shadow was faintly carrying the light of fireworks, which illuminated the black shadow like a spark igniting a prairie fire, revealing its true appearance. The mouth of the wooden incarnation gradually opened wide, and then he said ecstatically, "Chaos sword. The property returns to its original owner. Now, you should have a way to deal with this witch, right?" After saying that, Sun Qinyang chuckled lightly, stepped on the two phoenixes and flew more than 10 feet into the air, showing her attitude of wanting to be a spectator. "Why is the chaos sword in your hand?" Mu Jianying was extremely surprised. "You must know that the chaos sword disappeared into the void at that time." Even Nujiao knew about this. A familiar feeling came, and the chaos sword made a clear sound. Mujiawa couldn't understand, but Sun Qinyang, who was in the sword body, shouted in mid-air, "Zuyun, the sword spirit wants you to hit lightly. Hit it lightly." Mu incarnation was stunned. Is the chaos sword spirit pleading for Nujiao? Wait. Can you communicate with the sword spirit? Mujiawa was extremely surprised and raised his head and asked. Sun Qinyang smiled and said nothing, and continued to treat herself as a spectator. She just had some feelings for the chaos sword, so she helped convey the meaning. At the same time, this also left an imperceptible crack in Mujiawa's determined mind. Mu's original intention was to kill Nujiao so that she would not have the chance to cause harm to the spirit world and the human race. But right now, Chaos Sword, Nujiao is completely two people inside and outside the immortal mansion. Before you came back, she had killed many innocent people. Mujiawa took a deep breath and seemed to be mumbling to himself. Buzz. Chaos Sword Qingming responded. Mujiawa knew that Sun Qiniang would translate the meaning of Chaos Sword again, but this time, he chose to seal off his hearing. Qiniang, stop talking, I can't hear you. After the words fell, the green light on the Chaos Sword bloomed, and when the sword was thrust out, vines spread out. Wood Spirit Sword Technique. The vines are full of vitality and sweep toward Nujiao. Even though you have his sword, you are still not him. Zuyun, the sword girl said that the Chaos Sword doesn't even want me to die, so what can you do if you have the sword? Nujiao's body was agile and she could dodge and move around. This mysterious movement technique, coupled with the blessing of the Divine Eye technique, could not do anything to her at all. But what Nujiao didn't know was that Mu's first target was not her, but the magic knife. With the help of her agility, Nujiao chose to get closer to the wooden incarnation. Since Chaos Sword begged for mercy, he would definitely not help Zuyun kill him. This was his opportunity. Zuyun has a lot of secrets in his body. Even if it is just an incarnation, the performance is the same as that of Zuyun, which is enough to show that he has all the memories of the original body. I don't care about your life or death. I will suck your soul into the magic knife and find your true body again. In an instant, Nujiao's myriad of thoughts merged into a murderous intention. Before the blink of an eye, he had already stepped forward and was face to face with the wooden body. The magic knife stabbed towards the middle of the wooden body's eyebrows at a strange angle. If this stabs him, his soul will be completely absorbed into the magic knife. Nujiao, don't even think about it. Mujiawa couldn't hear Sun Qiniang's words, nor could he hear Nujiao's words. He was not disturbed in any way. Nujiao's magic sword technique was born out of the Wuji sword technique, but compared to the real Wuji sword technique, she did not master the essence. Following Mu Incarnation's cold shout, the Chaos Sword was already placed between his eyebrows. Qiang. The Demon Sword's true Chaos Sword body emits a concussive force. Nujiao took 3 steps back, but the wooden incarnation was completely different. Because the magic sword is only a thing from the lower world, and it is not a real magic sword. And the Chaos Sword is still the Chaos Sword of the immortal realm. This is the biggest difference. I didn't expect you to react quite quickly. Nujiao's chest puffed up, and a blood arrow spewed out from her throat again. The dark blood and essence stained the magic knife, making the magic even worse. For a moment, there was an aura like Menghui's disintegration of demons. However, what is improved this time is the strength of the magic sword. You want to kill me, but I want to take your knife? Mu's face became even more stern. At the same time, he took the opportunity to take out the porcelain bottle from his arms and swallowed all the soul-shaping pills in the bottle. Don't care about wasting it. If Nujiao is not dealt with this time, he will never have the chance to take the soul-shaping pill in the future. Moreover, the life and death of the original body are unknown, and he cannot die. Nujiao, suffer death. A fighting spirit surged into the sky, and Mu transformed into a foot stepping on the secret of immortality, forming the shape of a green ghost. While the long sword was stabbing, his left hand had also condensed a punch. Qinglong Fist. This is also one of the only 4 divine beast fists he can use. In terms of its own spiritual power, there are actually some differences between the wood spiritual power of the wood incarnation and the wood of Qinglong. The 4 mythical beasts have 4 attributes. And wood, the incarnation of wood, is the attribute of the 5 elements. The other 24 methods of Chaos Fist are pretty good. But using Qinglong Fist is actually a bit reluctant. As for the subsequent sequelae, it is unknown. But what he can know is that the slave girl is immortal, and he can only die. As for Sun Qiniang, she has no idea the seriousness of the matter. But one thing that can be believed is that Sun Qiniang will only make him angry at most, but will not harm him. Therefore, you can only rely on yourself. As long as Nujiao is solved, nothing will be a problem. A sword thrust, Nujiao easily dodged, and at the same time, the magic knife struck her between the eyebrows again. But this time, Mu Incarnation no longer used his sword to block, but chose to deal with it sideways. This immediately exceeded Nujiao's expectations. Before she could react, Mu Jianying used the power of twisting sideways to slam out her left hand. Blue Dragon Fist. A punch was thrown out, with endless wood spirit power, and a dragon-headed shadow immediately appeared above the fist. Hold head high. The dragon roared, its fist went straight towards Nujiao's wrist, and the dragon's head opened its mouth and bit it. Bang! Hitting the wrist, the magic knife flew out. Mu Jianying didn't have time to be overjoyed. While turning the chaos sword towards Nujiao, he used his strength to run towards the demonic sword again. You, Zuyun, are so insidious. Seeing Mu Jianying trying to snatch her magic knife, Nujiao couldn't help but cursed and immediately shouted, Lianyang Zhongfeng, come out. After the words fell, a figure emerged from the magic knife, holding the magic knife in his hand. Chen Mu, this woman is extremely vicious. If you save me, I will agree to any of your conditions. At the critical moment, Company Commander Feng turned against him. Nujiao was furious. She originally thought that Company Commander Feng was turned into a sword spirit and was always under her control. Therefore, since the sword was formed, she has been refining the magic sword itself instead of erasing Company Commander Feng's spirit. Originally sane. Firstly, she relaxed her vigilance, and secondly, she used the divine transformation stage to wipe out the sanity of the Mahayana stage sword spirit, which was very draining on her, and she didn't know much about the art of refining weapons, even though from Lian Changfeng's memory he has mastered the art of refining weapons, but has never practiced it. In addition, Company Commander Feng is unwilling to do this. He is only one step away from the stage of transcending the tribulation. How can he accept his fate? At this time, it can be said to be the best opportunity. As the leader of the 100 refining sect, how could he not know that Mu Incarnation has been looking for opportunities to snatch the magic knife? But he could see clearly that Mu Jiajia had a lot of experience in facing enemies. What secret does he have? Company Changfeng intends to let it pass, or in other words, he is not qualified to ask questions when his life and death are at stake. Company Commander Feng took illusory steps and personally delivered the magic knife to the wooden body. And after using the Qinglong fist, Mu Incarnation was also extremely weak. He pondered for a moment, then no longer hesitated, flipped his wrist, and seemingly put the magic knife into his sleeve, but in fact, the sword and spirit were sent directly into the island of Dazhu. In an instant, Nujiao lost contact with the magic knife. Zuyun, what did you do? Where is my magic knife? Nujiao finally panicked. Without the magic knife, she could carry the wooden incarnation for a while, but she couldn't carry any of the Mahayana here. Even Zhu Changrong, who had just been injured by her sneak attack, was unable to deal with it. Nujiao, suffer death. When Mu Incarnation shouted these words, Mu Incarnation felt the power of resistance on the Chaos Sword. Simply, Mu Incarnation threw the Chaos Sword fiercely, pointed it as a sword, and rushed towards Nujiao. Buzz. However, the Chaos Sword went and came back, circled back in mid-air, and blocked the wooden body. Chaos Sword, even you have to protect her. Mu Jiahua looked in disbelief at the old friend in front of him who had helped him kill countless people. The excitement that had just been lost disappeared without a trace at this moment. Buzz. The sword trembled and began to grow larger. At this moment, Mu Incarnation also felt the anger coming from the Chaos Sword. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Mu Incarnation burst out laughing like crazy. While laughing, he was vomiting blood. Everyone was stunned at this scene. People from Jiden sect, Nujiao, and Sun Qiniang in mid-air. Wish Yun. No one understands better than Sun Qiniang the impact that Mu Jianying received at this time. Because of the two clear sounds of the Chaos Sword, she completely understood it. The first time, I said you can teach her a lesson and hit her gently, because she is the maid of the Immortal Emperor, and you are not the Immortal Emperor. Second time, how dare you disobey me? The wind, fire, thunder, and lightning turned into a ball, and Aolimu transformed in front of him. Just listening, Sun Qiniang shouted in a deep voice, Chaos Sword, even though you are an immortal sword, if you dare to hurt Zuyun, I will destroy you. One word, one word, one word, one sword energy. The Chaos Sword, which was growing in size, suddenly stopped. A long while. The Chaos Sword began to shrink, and finally shrunk into a small sword as big as a magic knife, and flew into Nujiao's hand. Buzz. I have been with you for many days, and you have helped me get through many difficulties. Even my achievement of the name of Sword Phoenix is due to you. But just because you dare to hurt Zuyun, we will never be sworn in. Get out of here. Sun Qiniang shouted, the ground shook, and the mountain wind howled. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1176. It can be said that the Chaos Sword made Sun Qiniang the Sword Phoenix. Sun Qiniang also gave Chaos Sword hope that it could be restored stronger. But all of this was destroyed because of the pride of the Chaos Sword. The Chaos Sword spirit touched Sun Qiniang's reverse scale and also touched her obsession. It's Zuyun. No one can hurt Zuyun in front of her. The Chaos Sword alone cannot hurt Sun Qiniang, even if it was once the sword of the Immortal Emperor. But Sun Qiniang has a sword body. Any sword with spirit will be affected by the sword body. Not to mention that Sun Qiniang refined the 7 Phoenix Pearl. You must know that the 7 Phoenix Pearl is a spiritual pearl in the immortal world. If it were not a treasure, it would not be included in the 3rd floor of the Pearl Hidden Pavilion by the Immortal Emperor. This is also one of the reasons why Chaos Sword is willing to communicate with Sun Qiniang. Mu Jiahua stared blankly at this scene, incredulous. Whether Sun Qiniang could command the Chaos Sword or communicate with the Chaos Sword was something that he could not understand at all. Could it be that Sun Qiniang was so frightened? Nujiao no longer has the magic sword, but she has the Chaos Sword. And she knew very well how powerful the Chaos Sword was, and through the conversation between Sun Qiniang and the Chaos Sword, she was both surprised and happy. Chaos Sword actually interceded for her? What does this mean? Is this because the Immortal Emperor still has feelings for her? Otherwise, how could even the sword spirit feel it? Compared with the betrayal of the magic knife, Nujiao felt somewhat relieved. And she knew even more that if she didn't leave now, she might never be able to leave again. Chaos Sword, let's go. As soon as her body flashed, she was about to escape into the distance. Wood Avatar had a feeling of heartbreak. He once thought that he and the Chaos Sword were inseparable partners, but now in this situation, he was wrong after all. When he came back to his senses, Nujiao and the Chaos Sword were missing, but the entire Balian sect was wailing everywhere, filled with the screams of the cultivators of the 100 Refiners sect. He didn't have time to reminisce with Sun Qiniang and quickly looked at Zhu Changrong, only to see that he was shaking all over and covering the wound on his right shoulder with his left hand, as if he might die at any time. Elder Zhu, how do you feel? With the situation in Balian sect, it seems that they really cannot stay here for long. It's okay, it's okay. Zhu Changrong trembled his teeth and responded, then looked at Sun Qiniang and said, "Thank you Jian Huang for your help. It just so happens that we also invite Chen Mu, Zuyun, Taoist friend, to our Jidao sect, why don't Jian Huang come with us? Sun Qiniang did not answer, but looked at Mu Jiahua with a smile. Back then, she left Zuyun because of her weak strength. Now, she feels that she is strong enough. As long as he can stay with Zuyun and help her, it doesn't matter where he goes. I want to go to Jiden section. Mu Jiahua took a deep breath, nodded, and then asked, but Elder Zhu, what happened to the smoke soul dispersion? Over there, the second elder was still using his spiritual fire to drive away the smoke and souls, seeming to turn a blind eye and turn a deaf ear to everything that happened here. Well. Zhu Changrong sighed and said, aren't the people of Balian sect harboring evil intentions? They claim to be neutral, but they care nothing about human life. In addition to grabbing some monks in the spiritual world to refine weapons for them, they also kill their disciples if they are even slightly dissatisfied. Take out the living soul and refine it into a weapon spirit. Our Jiden sect has said many times that this is against the harmony of heaven and will affect their immortal path and the entire human race. That is a big mistake. But they just don't listen. N.A. Zhu Changrong paused, shook his head, and then said, we have always had transactions with Balian sect, so our previous sect masters mixed all the elixirs given to Jiden sect with Yan Hunsen. We have forgotten the function of Yan Hun powder, but we know that as long as there is this mother medicine, activated by the spiritual fire, it can make them endure the erosion of their bones and no longer have the power to resist, thus killing them in one fell swoop. Of not hiding it from little friend Zhu, Elder Zhu also raised the position of Mu incarnation a little higher and said, our original plan was to uproot the Balian sect after entering the ascended immortal secret realm. What happened next will also happen to you, I know. When the second elder saw the death of the sect master, he became furious. No one can persuade him now, I guess he will also die after the oil is exhausted. Muhwashan asked in shock, second elder, can't you stop? It can't be stopped, Elder Zhu said with a sad face, this smoke soul powder is acting on Zifu. If you want to drive and influence all the monks who take these pills, you must infuse them with all your soul. Our Jiden section. The death of the sect leader and the second elder on this day is also a huge loss. Mu Jiahua finally understood why the second elder didn't stop and the rest of the people didn't stop him either. Because they all know that this is a fatal situation and there is no way out. I see. Mu Jiahua thought that he had also taken a soul-shaping pill containing Yan Hunsen, and said, Elder Zhu, what about my situation? You. Zhu Changrong also instantly remembered the attack of Mu incarnation at that time, forced a smile, and said, the attack is over, and everything will be fine. You came to Balian sect not long ago, you didn't take many pills, and the Yanhun powder didn't gather. Then I have to thank Elder Zhu for giving me a normal bottle of soul-shaping pill. Hearing this, Zhu Changrong couldn't help being slightly stunned, and then said, can you tell that what I gave you is normal? Knowing that he would stay in Jiden sect for a long time, Mu Huashan would naturally show some of his abilities. He smiled and said, I know a little about elixirs and how to grow medicines. I don't say that I know all the spiritual medicines in the world, but I know almost everything. I actually discovered Yanhun pill a long time ago, and I also know that the elixirs in Jiden sect's warehouse all contain Yanhun powder. So, Zhu Xiao is really amazing. I thought you only knew the art of formation. And Yanhun powder can be said to be the biggest secret of our Jiden section. I didn't expect it to be discovered by Zhu Xiao. I also asked Zhu Xiao to forgive Zhu for concealing it. A great Mahayana sage actually apologized to Mu Huashan in the God transformation stage, which made Sun Qiniang very happy. The person I chose was indeed not wrong. Even if it was just an incarnation, he had such ability. No one else had it, so he just waited quietly outside the Foreign Affairs Hall for time to pass. Until the second elder's body fell down with a bang, and there was no life left, not even a last word left. Second elder. Second senior brother. Second brother. All the cultivators around him surrounded him and cried bitterly. The wooden incarnation looked indifferent and did not get involved. After a long time, Elder Zhu walked in front of the wooden incarnation and said, "My friend Zhu, it's time for us to set off." The wooden incarnation was slightly stunned and said, "What about these people from Balian sect? He thought they were all dead." They. Zhu Changgrong's face darkened and said, "The more people who take pills, the more likely they are to die. And those who take less pills naturally have a low realm, and they will not be so loyal to Balian section. We are not the ones who kill, let them go." The wooden incarnation nodded and said to Sun Qiniang, "Qiniang, let's go to Jiden sect." "Okay." Sun Qiniang was neat and tidy, without a word of nonsense. Over there, an old man had already collected the withered corpse of the second elder. There was also a Mahayana-level man of similar age who went to the inner affairs hall and placed Yao Jideo's corpse in a coffin. At some point, a white linen cloth was wrapped around the left arm of everyone, including Zhu Changrong. In silence, they walked out of Balian Mountain. The super-large Dozhuan Xinyi formation that Mu Huashen spent half a month to set up was also left here. After walking about 10 miles, Mu Huashen suddenly spoke and asked, "Elder Zhu, are we just walking back?" Zhu Changgrong's body stagnated and said helplessly, "The dead are the greatest. It's not easy for us to turn over the storage rings of the sect master and the second elder." Mu Huashen understood that they didn't bring any flying magic tools, so they could only do this. But this walk, who knows how long it will take. If you walk too much, you may get into trouble, which is something Mu Huashen doesn't want to encounter. He took a few steps back in a sullen manner and walked side by side with Sun Qiniang. A fragrant breeze suddenly passed over the tip of Mu Huashen's nose. "What's wrong?" Mu Huashen turned around and almost passed by Sun Qiniang, who was leaning over. Sun Qiniang's face flushed and she said in a delicate voice, "Zuyun, I didn't ask you before, but now I want to ask you, where is Meng Wei?" "Why are you asking Wei?" Mu Huashen couldn't help but wonder. He knew that Sun Qiniang and Meng Wei had a secret rivalry, but Meng Wei was more natural, which made Sun Qiniang, who had a slightly strong personality, always feel like punching cotton. "I was just thinking about it. That Nujiao looks like Meng Wei, and she is holding Meng Wei's magic knife. I remember that the magic knife seemed to be given to senior brother Zhou by Meng Wei, but you said she is not Meng Wei, and I can feel that she is not Meng Wei. So, I not only want to know where Meng Wei is, but also where senior brother Zhou and the eldest brother are." This. Mu Huashen hesitated after hearing these tongue twisters. Meng Wei and Daegu are in his Great Universe Island. Ergu is in the real Great Universe world. At least for now, he doesn't want to tell Sun Qiniang about the existence of the Great Universe world. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "Meng Wei and your two senior brothers are in a very safe place. I know where they are, but I can't go to see them for the time being." Sun Qiniang frowned slightly, and after a moment, she said, "Are you afraid of bringing danger to them?" "You can say that." The wooden incarnation spread his hands and said, "You also know that I am now just an incarnation of my original body, and I can't protect myself. Now, I don't know how my original body is." Speaking of this, he also sighed endlessly. Sun Qiniang said seriously and firmly, "Zuyun, I will help you." "You? Help me?" The wooden incarnation couldn't help but laugh, and said, "You are only in the spiritualization stage, what can you do to help me?" Hearing this, Sun Qiniang was immediately angry and said, "Zuyun, I couldn't beat you before, but now I think I can compete with you." As soon as the voice fell, a phoenix cried, and 7 fire phoenixes suddenly appeared behind Sun Qiniang. To be precise, it should be a fire phoenix. The appearance of the phoenix and the phoenix is actually somewhat different. Ordinary people can't recognize it. But Zuyun, who once briefly possessed the Fengguo sword and met a phoenix, can tell the difference. The wood avatar can also recognize it. 7. And Phoenix. 7 Phoenix Pearls. He suddenly uttered these 3 words. Sun Qinyang's face suddenly changed. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1177. How do you know the 7 Phoenix Pearls? The 7 Phoenix Pearl can be said to be her and Yayuan's secret. Another Zhangdao venerable who knew the 7 Phoenix Pearls, all the Zhangdao spiritual power in his body became her strength, allowing her to break through the stage of becoming a god. That's why she had such a big reaction when Mujiawa said these 3 words. If the person in front of her was not the most important incarnation of Zuyun in her life, the Wind and Thunder Dragon sword might have struck at the incarnation of Mu. Don't ask me first how I know. Are you fused with the 7 Phoenix Pearl? Mujiawa remembered the conversation he had with Long Wu. The entire Demon Dragon clan was wiped out, except for Long Wu, who was injured by himself with the Dragon Trap formation. He escaped by mistake, and finally became the Demon King, and turned their hostility into friendship with him. And Long Wu said that the Dragon Demon Emperor refined the Dragon Balls, and he wanted to find the Dragon Balls in the Dragon Demon Emperor's body. Since the Dragon Demon Emperor can fuse, what can Sun Qinyang do? That's right, with the help of Brother Yuan, I fused the 7 Phoenix Pearls, otherwise I would have died at the hands of someone who has transcended the tribulation stage. Brother Yuan. Mujiawa didn't know that Sun Qinyang had an older brother, but the word Yuan. Yeah, Yuan. Yayuan's innocent smile immediately popped into his mind, and Mu turned around and blurted out. Sun Qinyang smiled sweetly and said, yes, that's him. What a great Yayuan. The wooden incarnation couldn't help but burst out in anger. If Yayuan hadn't thrown him into the mortal world without any explanation, how could he have suffered so much? Although I had many adventures and gained a lot, I was unprepared. Zuyun, do you have a grudge against my brother Yuan? Mujiawa could not help but smile bitterly and said, I wish I could beat him up, but that's all. This Yayuan. Shaking his head, he suddenly understood why Sun Qinyang called Yayuan her brother. It seems that birds of a feather flock together and people flock together. This can be regarded as Sun Qinyang's immortal fate, right? Only. You haven't told me yet, where did the 7 Phoenix Pearls come from? Zuyun integrated the Kangzhou Pavilion into the Great Universe world, but some spiritual beads were missing from it, including the 7 Phoenix beads. This is a long story. Sun Qinyang recounted her encounter with the Dragon Demon Emperor and Zhangdao Master in the northern icefield. She was extremely shocked when she talked about the thrilling aspects. After a long time, he discovered another problem. You said that when you went to the Arctic fields, it was originally a sword embryo. Yes, Sun Qinyang smiled bitterly and recounted what she encountered in the 9 Netherlands, making Lingmu sigh again. I thought that Sun Qinyang's current achievements were due to her great destiny, which was also inseparable from her sword body. But I never thought that everything was done by Feng Anhe. Fortunately, he brought Feng Anhe to the spirit world, to Tianweishan, and took him to Sword Valley at the risk of falling out with Tu Chang. It's no wonder that Feng Anhe said that he had brought a sword to protect himself. At that time, he thought that Feng Anhe had mistaken himself for the sword body and said that. Even things became a little strange. The people from the Sword Valley did not chase him. Unexpectedly, this matter was so complicated that it would have been confusing if Sun Qinyang hadn't told it today. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Fate played tricks on people, and in the end Sun Qinyang was standing beside him. Zuyun, don't hate Feng Anhe anymore, Sun Qinyang said from the side, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today. Brother Yuan said that it was fate, and for his sake, let Feng Anhe go. Just pretend that nothing happened. Yayuan is very open-minded. He was looking for Lu Ruyan, humph. Mu Jiwa curled his lips. Since Sun Qinyang didn't care, he had nothing to say. Don't look at the monk's face and look at the Buddha's face. At least Feng Qingyang abandoned the bell to welcome Xia and saved his life, which was enough to offset the debt to his father. Zhu Yun, in short, we are standing safely in the spirit world, which is pretty good. Now we are going to Jiden sect. What are your plans? Sun Qinyang could pick it up and put it down. And all of this was influenced by Zhu Yun. What plans can you have? Of course, I will go to Jidanzong to survive. The main body will definitely get out of trouble, and we will tell you when the time comes. And I have also made the worst plan. If the main body does not get out of trouble, I will continue to practice in Jidanzong. It's worthless. Sun Qinyang rolled her eyes at him with disgust and said, the spiritual world is undergoing drastic changes. The most critical thing right now is the secret realm of ascension. How about you come with me to enter? No, 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 I don't want to go. Although Mu Jianying was a little moved, when he thought of the secrets of the Demon Moon sect, plus the Moon Demon ruins, etc. Zhu Yun, you are such a coward. Sun Qinyang made a face, just like when Zhu Yun refused her to go to the Zilang secret realm together. I'm not timid, I'm cautious. The road to immortality is bumpy and the steps are difficult. We have to take one step at a time. Come on, Sun Qinyang said disdainfully, if you don't go, believe it or not, I will kidnap you. Anyway, you can't beat me. As she said that, she smiled evilly again, making Mu Jiaji extremely helpless. Talking about it, at some point, the Jiden sect and others in front also tore off all the linen wrapping around their arms. Zhu Changrong walked up to the two of them and said politely, you two, you can fly now. Those elders have to go back to the sect to report the funeral first, and Zhu will accompany you too. This can be regarded as taking care of their state of becoming a god. Because in those Mahayana periods, everyone showed their magical powers, which was far beyond what they could catch up with. Thank you, Elder Zhu. The wood incarnation heaved a sigh of relief. They had indeed been a little more conspicuous along the way. Especially when they passed the market. Jian Huang, don't you need to ask for directions this time? Zhu Changrong said helplessly. You know, the last time they met, it was not far from the market. With the power of the Chaos Sword, she forced Zhu Changrong to ask for directions. Elder Zhu, you are too polite. I was a little anxious last time. It's okay, it's okay. Jian Huang has a unique personality and is different from others, but he is kind-hearted. It was Zhu who was in a hurry to return to the sect that day. Why, did you fight? The wood incarnation teased on the side. Zhu Changrong blushed and waved his hand quickly, saying, it's asking for directions, it's asking for directions. Sun Qinyang giggled until Zhu Changrong turned around to lead the way. She leaned close to the wood incarnation's ear and said, it's asking for directions, but it's just throwing stones to ask for directions. Throwing stones to ask? The wood incarnation looked at Sun Qinyang, who was smiling with her mouth covered, puzzled. It was not until Sun Qinyang suddenly bent down, picked up a stone from the ground, and pretended to throw the stone at Zhu Changrong's head that the wood incarnation suddenly realized it. It was indeed a test of the water. You are too arrogant. You dared to throw a stone at a Mahayana period at that time. Elder Zhu was stepping on a fire fan, which was his life weapon, not made by the Balian sect. Sun Qinyang disliked the wood incarnation's slow speed, so she carried him with her wind and thunder dragon sword, and she stepped on two fire phoenixes. The speed was not slow. My friend Zhu, Sword Phoenix, the five elements sect's territory is ahead, we have to be careful. Zhu Changrong suddenly pointed to a valley and said. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Thinking of Xianxia's golden light soul method, the wood incarnation was suddenly nervous. If the original body was still there, He could handle it. But the problem is that he is just an incarnation. Don't worry, Zhu Changrong said with a smile, since the death of the Five Elements Wanderer, the Five Elements sect has been separated and collapsed, so there is no need to worry. I know all their Mahayana stage masters, and I don't think they will attack without reason. No. The wooden incarnation was slightly stunned, and asked curiously, could it be that the 5 spirit pills needed by the Five Elements sect are also made by the Extreme Dan sect? That's not the case, Zhu Changrong said. The 5 spirit pills are extremely special, and the conditions are quite harsh. It is impossible for our Extreme Dan sect to only make such troublesome pills. But in the 5 Elements sect, except for the 5 spirit pills, the actual pills are all provided by our Extreme Dan section. I see, the wooden incarnation nodded, and then said, but it's better to stay away. The 5 Elements sect has changed, and now the sect master has been replaced by someone else, which is very strange. I know that their sect master has changed, but I heard that it is just a woman in the nascent soul stage, and I have never dealt with her. Zhu Changrong is the elder in charge of traveling outside the Extreme Dan section. He doesn't know much, but he knows a lot. She's not easy to deal with, the wood incarnation sighed, and said, if you can avoid dealing with her in the future, don't deal with her. Oh. Zhu Changrong was slightly stunned, and then said, have you met the sect master? What do you have to say? In fact, before going to the Jiden sect, I went to the 5 Elements sect as a routine, but was turned away. The reason was that their sect master went to the outer world to do business. I asked to see the elders who could speak to me, but the response I got was that the elders didn't see me. The wood incarnation thought to himself, I can guess why with my toes. Not to mention the 5 Elements sect cultivators in the refining void stage and the combination stage, even those in the Mahayana stage wished to stay in seclusion all the time, break through to the tribulation stage as soon as possible, and then leave the sect. Who wastes time chatting with you? But he couldn't say these words. The matter of injuring Tu Gong and settling Tu Gong was all done by this incarnation, and the information he got from Tu Gong couldn't be clearer. Who could have thought that the 5 Elements sect would become like this after the death of the 5 Elements Wanderer? But it must be said that Xianxia's luck is also very good. The Ascension platform destroyed the 5 Elements sect's pillar, the 5 Elements Wanderer, but left the surviving Xianxia alive. This fate is really wonderful. Heavenly Deo, is it that all this is arranged by you? Or is it that in the dark, there are immortals from the upper realm controlling everything on the yellow star? Wood Huashan's mind and thoughts are wild and unrestrained, and he can't stop it. Combined with all the incomprehensible things he encountered, for a while, he was also a little confused. Cultivate immortals. Isn't it good for everyone to be a cultivator quietly? You have to fight to the death. After a long time, Wood Huashan suddenly saw a familiar scene, a vast mountain range that has been long and ancient. Elder Zhu, where is the Jiden sect? Of course it's in Kunlun. Elder Zhu smiled easily, but the wood incarnation was shocked. Kunlun. Of course he knew that Kunlun was the heaven beyond heaven. But what he knew was that the ordinary human race called it the heaven beyond heaven, and the demon race called it Kunlun. Could it be that the people of the Jiden sect were the demon race? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1178. When the demon clan breaks through the demon saint realm from the demon king realm, they will encounter a demon disaster. And this demon tribulation determines the path the demon cultivator will take next. Or, use the demon tribulation thunder to destroy all the demonic nature, and become a brand new human being and start practicing again. In this case, it is no different from the normal human race. Or, just continue to practice in the demon body. Of course, generally speaking, the vast majority of demon cultivators will still choose to become demon saints. Because compared to human monks, after the demon saint realm, the path to immortality is extremely smooth. As long as you continue to temper yourself, there is no problem of realm obstacles and shackles. Keep practicing until you trigger the final catastrophe, and then achieve enlightenment and ascend. Like the dragon demon emperor, he actually reached the extreme level of cultivation early after he got the fragment of the Dazhu glazed mirror from the Kangzhou pavilion. But the dragon demon emperor wanted to break the destiny, fused the 7 dragon balls, and wanted to achieve the true dragon body and ascend, but he died an unexpected death in the end. After all, people's hearts are greedy, so why not the demon clan? But what Mu Jiahua couldn't understand was that these people from the Jidan section. He frowned, and for a moment he felt that Jidan sect might not be that simple. Zuyun, what's wrong? Sun Qiniang didn't know the problem here, so she couldn't help but ask in a low voice when she saw Mu Jiahua's serious expression. No, just wait and see what happens. There was nothing the wood avatar could do for a while, but despite the drastic changes in the outer world, at least the vegetation was prosperous. He used the wood escape technique, which could be said to have an extra escape route. At worst, Sun Qiniang will also be included in the island of Dazhu. Zuyun, Sun Qiniang said, if the Chaos Sword is not here, I can only deal with one person in the void refining stage. The implication is that if Zhu Changrong turns against him, there is nothing she can do. It's not Elder Zhu's problem, but, forget it, I can't explain it at the moment. We'll talk about it when we get there. Don't neglect it. After all, following Zhu Changrong, it is impossible to explain it in a whole article. Sun Qiniang nodded slightly, she just wanted to express what she meant. The premise of advancing and retreating with Zuyun is to let Zuyun understand his current situation. Zhu Changrong led the two of them down from the entrance to the mountain on the west side of Tianweishan, and said, Tianweishan has been very lively recently. Many monks and even some powerful people come to Tianweishan to search for heavenly materials and earthly treasures for the next ascension to immortality. Prepare for the secret realm. Let's proceed with caution and leave on foot. Everything depends on Elder Zhu's arrangement. Mu Jiahua and Sun Qiniang said in unison, and they followed Zhu Changlong along the mountain road deep into the mountain. Mu Incarnation has walked this road before, and he even knows the direction of this road to Sword Valley. Not very familiar, but somewhat familiar. At present, there are messy footprints all over the ground, and there are traces of fights from time to time, which is enough to show that the word lively may not be appropriate enough. Isn't it true that half of the spiritual monks are here? Mu Jiahua curled his lips. It is true that the secret realm of ascension to immortality is one of the great events in the spiritual world. But since ancient times, this kind of grand event has been more of a disaster for low-level monks. Why should they compete with people of higher realms for treasures of heaven and earth? If it were an ordinary spiritual creature, there would be no need to go to such a dangerous place. Why? Those casual cultivators just don't understand? Mu Jiahua shook his head and then heard Zhu Changrong suddenly say, by the way, when I was in Balian sect, I heard Sword Phoenix talk about Sword Valley. Well, there is some connection. Sun Qiniang didn't hide it. Our Jidan sect is passing by Sword Valley, why not go and have a look? Zhu Changrong's sudden suggestion stunned both of them. Sun Qiniang subconsciously looked at Mu Jiahua and decided to let him make the decision. Mu Jiahua thought for a moment and said, it's okay to go, I just happen to be short of a handy sword. It's already here, the worst thing is that he can shamelessly ask for a sword from Feng Qingyang. That couldn't be better. Zhu Changrong smiled and led the two of them towards the Sword Valley. As everyone knows, Sword Valley is no longer what it used to be. In the empty and silent space, Zuyun looked helpless. Countless mountains of purgatory were stacked on top of each other, making it impossible for him to turn over or even take a breath. Old man Lin, if I come out and you wake up, I have to find a sole method to torture you. Zuyun gritted his teeth. It was not because of the pain of being suppressed by Purgatory Mountain, but because it was an endless torture to his character. Especially since he didn't know how much time had passed, it would make this feeling of being helpless aggravate who knows how much. Fortunately, Zuyun has always been perseverant. Fortunately, I have consumed a lot of Purgatory Mountain. If I don't do anything, the situation will not be much worse. I should try something. I don't know what happened to the wooden incarnation, what happened to Nu Xiao, what happened to the spirit world, and others. How are you doing? Zuyun calmed down and began to think about countermeasures. My body can't move, but my soul can still move. This Purgatory Mountain is the consciousness and all the soul power of the ancestor of the Lin family. It should be similar to the soul that oppresses me, so that I can't move my whole body. If I let the soul leave Zi Mansion and merge into the body, can I escape the suppression of Purgatory Mountain? But where should the soul go? While talking to himself, Zuyun looked at his body, left Zi Mansion, followed the 9 meridians, and finally locked on the Chaos Lotus. The Chaos Lotus is the source of his power, and all the chaos power needs to pass through the Chaos Lotus before it can be used by him. Although there is still some chaos power in the 9 meridians, if we really encounter a strong enemy, it will only be a drop in the bucket. No, the ancestor of the Lin family must have thought of this. There is only one chance to enter the Chaos Lotus. If you fail, it will never be possible. After thinking about it, Zuyun immediately rejected the idea. Let alone letting all the souls leave the Zi Mansion and enter the Chaos Lotus, what changes will happen? What will happen if they fail, he doesn't know. When the soul descended from the 9 meridians, he could still feel the evil spirit remaining in the 9 meridians to some extent, but compared to before, it was indeed consumed a lot by the mysterious power of Purgatory Mountain. He also felt in his heart that it would not be a good thing if all the evil spirits could be removed from Purgatory Mountain. But Purgatory Mountain is meaningless. It is controlled by the ancestor of the Lin family, but the ancestor of the Lin family also fell into a deep sleep. Who knows when he will wake up? Under such circumstances, Zuyun should be even more careful. Chaos Lotus can't do it, then. Suddenly, Zuyun had a plan in his mind, and he couldn't help but frown on his face. Why should I be entangled with the Chaos Lotus and myself? Aren't there 4 more incarnations? If I let the original soul be divided into 4 parts and merged into the other 4 incarnations, can I escape it? Lockdown of Purgatory Mountain. When he thought of this, Zuyun suddenly became extremely excited. His incarnation is not different from other people's incarnations. The 5 elements transformation technique in the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra is extremely strange and mysterious. It is not transformed from any part of the body, but is formed by the 5 spiritual beads. Even if the 5 spiritual beads are refined into part of the 5 internal organs, they are still foreign objects. Perhaps, you can escape the suppression of Purgatory Mountain because of this. If it is feasible, the worst case scenario is to let the 4 incarnations come out and let the body stay here, and let Purgatory Mountain completely consume the evil spirit in the body. Of course, the premise is that all 4 of my incarnations can come out of this heavenly book space. With this in his mind, Zuyun began to take action. He did not divide all the soul into 4 parts, but began to try to create an incarnation first. Fire incarnate. The fire Lingzu is the Lingzu he is most familiar with, and the first Lingzu he obtained was also the fire Lingzu. Moreover, Fenchen is also hiding in the fire spirit bead. If the incarnation of fire goes out and encounters a strong enemy, at least there will be heavenly fire available. In order to prevent accidents from happening, Zuyun carefully directed his soul towards his heart. The heart governs fire. The fire spirit bead at this time is completely embedded in the heart, and it keeps rising and falling with the beating of the heart. Here we go. Zuyun concentrated his mind, threw all distracting thoughts out of his mind, and tried to rush his soul into the fire spirit bead. Soon, Fen Tianyan inside felt Zhu Yun's soul coming through. "Master, what are you?" Fen Tianyan was originally very exhausted and was sleeping in the fire spirit bead, but Zhu Yun was locked in the heavenly book space for a long time, and he would not wake up. Zhu Yun's huge power of the soul also quickly woke him up. "I'm in some trouble, and I want to try to see if I can get out of trouble through the incarnation of the fire spirit pearl." Zhu Yun used his consciousness to communicate with Fen Tianyan. "Trouble? What trouble?" Fen Tianyan's tone became tense. Zhu Yun's heart moved and he quickly asked, "Do you know Purgatory Mountain?" "Purgatory Mountain? Master, have you arrived in the fairy world?" "I didn't reach the fairy land," Zhu Yun said helplessly. "I just met the owner of Purgatory Mountain and was trapped by his phantom of Purgatory Mountain." "Old man Lin is also in the lower realm?" Fen Tianyan exclaimed. "Yes, he is in the lower world, and he is still in a book, trapping me." Zhu Yun explained helplessly and said, "Okay, stop talking, I'm trying to figure out a way to get out of trouble." "Master, old man Lin's immortal power is boundless. Even the immortal emperor wanted to give him 3 points in the past. If he uses the magical power of Purgatory Mountain, I'm afraid there is only one way to solve it." Zhu Yun was stunned when he heard this. There was only one meaning behind the words, that is, the ancestor of the Lin family. Very strong. Also, if he was not strong, why would a mountain be the enemy of thousands of evil immortals and stand tall in the void of the immortal world, monopolizing one side? "So, my method of using incarnations won't work?" Just when Zhu Yun's confidence began to waver, Fen Tianyan spoke again, igniting his hope. "I once heard the immortal emperor say that there is no difference between the phantom of Purgatory Mountain and the real body of Purgatory Mountain. The only way to break through it is old man Lin's own magical power, the Divine Eye Technique. As long as the Divine Eye Technique can, if you find out that this is a phantom, then you can naturally find a way out of trouble." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1179. Shen Ai Technique. Zhu Yun opened his mouth wide, his face full of disbelief. "Isn't this what I do? Well." The ancestor of the Lin family thought that no one would tell him the connection between Shenjingju and Purgatory Mountain, so he thought he could suppress him. I'm afraid he never dreamed that he would have the immortal emperor's immortal mansion, and even the immortal emperor's heavenly fire. No matter. Anyway, the old man was asleep and he didn't know when he would wake up. I'll settle the score with him then. "Feng Tian, do you know how to use the Divine Eye Technique to break it?" Zhu Yun said while holding back his excitement. "I heard the immortal emperor said that you just use the Divine Eye Technique to look towards Purgatory Mountain. As long as you can see it, you can naturally get out of trouble. As for how to see, I don't know. After all, Fen Tianyan has not yet returned to his peak state, and his memory is not complete yet. It is very good to be able to recall so much." Zhu Yun couldn't ask for too much. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Okay, I get it, I'll try it now." After saying that, he returned all the soul that he had just penetrated back into the Zi mansion. Then he suddenly opened his eyes and cast the Divine Eye Technique on the Purgatory Mountain in front of him. In the lower abdomen, the Chaos Lotus was running wildly, glowing with golden light. The purified chaos power turned into immortal power and flowed towards Zhu Yun's eyes. Half an hour passed, and the chaos power was exhausted. And Zhu Yun finally discovered that there seemed to be something extremely disharmonious about Su Ying. But it just so happened that the power of chaos was gone, and his Divine Eye Technique also receded due to it. Perhaps the ancestor of the Lin family calculated that I am not strong enough to use the divine eye technique all the time. Zuyun couldn't help but doubt his previous thoughts. Forget it, just recover slowly. At least there is still spiritual power in this heavenly book space. Zuyun curled his lips, put away his thoughts, and began to practice qi. But, I don't know how much time this will take. Fortunately, after learning how to escape from Fen Tianyan, there is finally hope. Zuyun refined his qi until it was full, and then continued to use the divine eye technique until the power of chaos was exhausted. Week after week, week after week. As more and more flaws were found, Zuyun found that he had become a lot stronger. This also made him smile bitterly. It was an unexpected gain. Just as he was going back and forth like this, Tian Wei Tian, Mu Jiwa, and Sun Qiniang also came outside the Sword Valley. Looking at the devastated Sword Valley, which was almost razed to the ground, even Zhu Changrong looked in disbelief. Going to Jidanzong does require passing through the Sword Valley, but it is 5 miles away from the sword. And he came and went in such a hurry that he didn't realize that Sword Valley had been destroyed. What's going on? Mu Jia murmured, Sword Valley no longer has the ability to threaten people, why is it still being destroyed? Sun Qiniang also frowned and asked, Elder Zhu, has anyone ever been an enemy in Jiangwu? Zhu Changrong shook his head and said, if their valley master was a little arrogant before ascending to the immortal platform, he might have offended others. But after ascending to the immortal platform, all the people in the Sword Valley with a little level of realm have died, and the rest except for the refining the art of making spirit swords has no use at all. Moreover, if we talk about setting up enemies, I'm afraid all their enemies will die on the immortal ascension platform. Everyone is busy preparing for the secret realm of immortal ascension. How could Sword Valley suffer such a disaster? It must be someone with good intentions. Mu Jiahua said in a deep voice, but Zhou Yingxia's face appeared in his mind. There is no doubt that it must be her. Before, when he wanted to sneak into the Five Elements sect, he happened to meet Zhou Yingxia head-on. Later he learned that Zhou Yingxia planned to go to Tianweishan. With Zhou Yingxia's temperament, there's no guarantee that he won't find Feng Qingyang. Although there was no enmity between them, maybe they had a dispute and Feng Qingyang was brutally murdered. Qiniang, maybe Feng Qingyang is dead. Mu turned his head and looked at Sun Qiniang, whose profile was absolutely beautiful. Dead. Sun Qiniang felt emotional in her heart. Maybe, Mu Jianying was not sure, and said to Zhu Changrong, Elder Zhu, let's go to Jidan sect. Best wishes, little friend, Zhu Changrong said without moving, if you want to avenge your friend, our Jidan sect can help. Mu Jiahua also laughed and said teasingly, is Elder Zhu serious about what he said? This is natural, Zhu Changrong patted his chest and said, I know Zhu Xiao's question, saying that our Jidan sect is a neutral force. But if Zhu Xiao joins our Jidan sect, then this is equivalent to our Jidan sect's business. You say, can the Jidan sect help? Okay, the smile on Mu Jiahua's face became even wider, if I say that the one who destroyed the Sword Valley is most likely the Five Elements sect, then the Jidan section. Do you want to take a trip into this muddy water? Gah! Zhu Changrong opened his mouth wide and his jaw almost dropped in shock. After a long while, he said, Zhu Xiao, are you kidding me? No matter how courageous the Five Elements sect is, they will not dare to destroy a force in Tianweishan. Even though the strength of the Sword Valley is not enough. If it was the former Five Elements sect, naturally it would not dare. But do you know that the current leader of the Five Elements sect was once the Taoist companion of the current Valley Master? Do you think? This is too mysterious. Zhu Changrong murmured, hate due to love. These 4 words made Sun Qiniang's heart skip a beat. She couldn't help but think of herself. Did she ever hate Zuyun? She secretly glanced at Mu Jiahua and found that he had not noticed her, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Okay. I have never hated you, Zuyun. So, Elder Zhu, we should not provoke the Five Elements sect for the time being. After all, the Five Elements sect now has a leader with inexplicable means. Mujiawa found a reason, but he actually had his own selfish motives. If there was a fight between the Five Elements sect and the Jiden sect, let alone who would win, at least I would definitely not be safe. Moreover, he has to wait until the real body comes back before sneaking into the Five Elements sect to seize the fragment. I wish you the best, little friend. You should take care of the overall situation. Elder Zhu forced a laugh and secretly wiped his sweat. He had spoken up front. If Mujiajia really wanted to take revenge, he would be in a dilemma. Either you can't explain it to Mujiajia, or you can't explain it to Jidan sect. Not to mention, the Jiden sect is probably in chaos right now. Both Yao Jidao and the second elder are dead. It is not known whether the third elder will take over as the sect leader or the direct disciple of Yao Jida. Zhu Changrong had another headache when he thought of this. We'd better leave quickly so as not to scare those juniors here. Mujiawa stretched out his finger and saw some faint glances in some larger stone crevices. It was obvious that there were monks hiding inside, presumably the survivors of Sword Valley. Mujiawa didn't know that although there were losses in Sword Valley, not too many disciples were killed or injured, and even Feng Qingyang was alive and well. Even the Sword Valley has turned from bright to dark, because Feng Qingyang doesn't know when Xianxia, a crazy woman, will come back to take revenge. Simply, they stopped restoring the Sword Valley, and instead asked all the clan members to dig along the cracks in the ground and live underground. Indeed, everyone in Sword Valley is really a junior now. Even if their Valley Master is here, he is probably only at the nascent soul stage. Zhu Changrong deeply believed that in the spiritual world, weakness was the original sin. Even if he had always been neutral, he still knew the rules of the spiritual world. A group of 3 people slowly walked out of the Sword Valley, but just in time, a disheveled female cultivator rushed towards them, staggering towards them. Huh? Demon cultivator. Zhu Changrong looked stern. It is not that there are no demon cultivators in Tianweishan, but there is no way here, but such a strange demon cultivator suddenly appears. Naturally, it is an abnormality. Just as he was whispering and preparing to push her away with the Mahayana stage, he didn't expect that Mu incarnation rushed out first and supported the female demon cultivator. Tingfeng Demon Lord. The person coming is none other than Nangong Tingfeng. That day, after the Zhenhai sect parted ways, Nangong Tingfeng was injured, so he rushed towards Sword Valley while recovering from his injuries. There was no confirmed news about Feng and he, but there was Feng Qinjiang's preparation position. How could she hold back? But who would have thought that after finally reaching Tianweishan, they heard a lot of news, all saying that Sword Valley had been destroyed and the owner of the valley was missing, so he rushed here with worries all the way. She was exhausted physically and mentally, but it happened that Zhu Changrong and the other 3 did not suppress their voices, and the words that confirmed that Feng Qingyang was dead reached her ears. All hope is lost. Wish Yun. Nangong Tingfeng raised his head, his face covered with tears, like a spring gushing, a lake collapsing, a river roaring, a sea storm. My son, is he really dead? This sound is heartbreaking. Mujiawa sighed and said, Tingfeng Amozun, I just arrived, so I'm not sure. But you mentioned Xianxia. Nangong Tingfeng murmured, Xianxia, a vicious woman, I shouldn't have brought her to the spirit world in the first place. Unfortunately, my son was so infatuated that I only gave birth to him but never raised him. I secretly felt that I had wronged him, so I obeyed his will. Listen to Lord Feng Demon. Brother Feng's ability to escape is very good, maybe he has already escaped? I met Xianxia once, and she is only at the Yuanying stage. And Brother Feng is also at the Yuanying stage. Their Feng family, only the Wind Spirit Gen, and Brother Feng still has the flying shuttle and other spiritual weapons in hand. Hearing Mu Jiahua's comfort in such detail, Nangong Tingfeng's eyes couldn't help but light up slightly. What you said, is it true? Of course it's true, I don't need to lie to you. Besides, no one has ever seen Brother Feng really dead. Mu Jiahua swore emphatically, even though he was extremely sure that Feng Qingyang was dead. But after all, Nangong Tingfeng had met him once and had a relationship with him, so there was no way he could let him go. Although she is Feng and he's Taoist friend, I have to say that Nangong Tingfeng is still a good person. Then what should I do? The spiritual world is so big, and the outer world is also so big. Where can I find him? Mu Jiahua thought deeply. In this case, there are two choices. One is, you return to Xianguang sect and wait. The other is. With that said, he turned his attention to Zhu Changrong. Elder Zhu pondered, it would not be a bad idea if this demon cultivator joins the sect as Zhu Xiao's maid. Still, Sun Qiniang continued at this time, become my maid, what do you think of Elder Zhu? Mu Jiahua cast a grateful look. If Nangong Tingfeng was really willing to follow him and leave first, there was indeed something wrong with the identity of this maid. As Sun Qiniang is also a woman, she doesn't have so many worries. But who knows, Nangong Tingfeng refused this condition, but said firmly, I won't go anywhere, I will stay here. If my son really escapes, he will definitely come back when the news passes. If he dies, I will be here to keep vigil for him. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1180. Nangong Tingfeng was resolute, so Mu Jianying naturally stopped pushing. After thinking about it, he asked Zhu Changrong, does Elder Zhu have some elixirs that she can use? Zhu Changrong understood, took out 2 bottles of pills, handed them directly to Nangong Tingfeng, and said, a bottle of soul-shaping pill and a bottle of infant training pill are just what you need. But you can only take one at a time. Wait until the medicine is full, only after it is completely dissolved can you continue to swallow it. Nangong Tingfeng did not refuse. After taking it, he said to Zhu Changrong, thank you, senior. Turning around, Zhu Yun, thank you. At this parting, Mu Jiahua was filled with emotions. When the Japanese body took Feng Wujian and left, it was still fine. Feng Qingyang was also very proud, thinking that Sword Valley would flourish in his hands. But after not seeing him for several months, Sword Valley was completely gone, and even his life and death were unknown. This is the world of immortality. Fortunately, Zhu Yun has a lot of experience, so such a scene will not have much impact on Mu Jiji. Sun Qiniang and Sun Qiniang followed Zhu Changrong all the way, and there were no surprises. A few days later, they arrived at the depths of Tianweishan. A mountain range that is incompatible with its surroundings falls into view. This is where the Jidan sect is. Zhu Changrong pointed straight ahead and said somewhat proudly. This mountain range is rolling and undulating. If you count it carefully, there are countless large and small hills. In the middle of the mountain range, there is a mountain peak rising from the ground, standing out from the crowd, and is particularly conspicuous. That is our main peak, Jidan Peak. Zhu Changrong led the 2 of them towards the Jidan Peak, and began to introduce the situation of the Jidan sect in an eloquent manner. Mu Jiahua and Sun Qiniang were also slightly surprised when they heard that the inheritance of Jidan sect could no longer be verified. There are thousands of sects in the spiritual world, but how many of them have the foundation? Just like Sword Valley, once upon a time, they were unparalleled in their sword refining skills, but who could have imagined that it would be like this now? Zhu Changrong's words touched Mu Jiahua's heart. Yes, a huge force would do the same, not to mention monks like them. One immortal attains enlightenment, and all bones wither. All living beings in the world have only seen the bright and beautiful immortals ascending to enlightenment, but they have never thought of how many monks have fallen on the path to immortality, and how many of them cannot see through it. Mortals who only want to cultivate immortality have worked hard for hundreds of years, but they can't find the way. Died in depression? That's right, just when Muhuahua was filled with emotion, Zhu Changrong pulled him back from his thoughts with another words, and he just heard him say, according to the rules, the funeral of the sect master should end in an honorable manner. I wish you little friend are here sect, try not to get involved in this matter, so as not to cause trouble. Hearing this, Mu Jianying couldn't help frowning and said, what Elder Zhu means is, will there be anyone competing for the position of the sect leader? Zhu Changrong smiled bitterly and said, Zhu Xiao, the sect leader died unexpectedly, it was an accident, and he didn't leave any will. As I said before, I don't know whether the third elder will take over, or the eldest disciple of the sect leader's direct line. Of course, it is also possible, Ancestor Tianji will be asked to intervene in this matter, and there is no way he will be able to figure it out in order to select a suitable candidate for the sect master. Can this still happen? Mu Jiahua was stunned. Didn't he say that Qin Tianji was the guest elder of their Jidan sect because he stayed there long enough to be called the ancestor? How could he be so casually appointed as the leader of Jidan sect? But I wish you and Jian Huang don't worry. This is just the worst plan. Even so, as long as you two don't make any statements, the people in the sect will not make things difficult for you. Seeing the different expressions on the two of them, Zhu Changrong gritted his teeth and said, don't worry, I will stop you, old Zhu. Zhu Changrong can be regarded as a person of some status. No matter who is the leader of the clan, he must give Zhu Changrong some face. After all, in the past 1,000 years, Zhu Changrong had been the one running the show between Jidan sect and the outside world. Then Elder Lao Zhu, Mu Jianying first cupped his hand and said, I came to Jidan sect because I wanted to find a stable place to practice. It just so happened that I could arrange a mountain protection formation for Jidan section. This is a deal. The implication is that if Jidan sect is not nice to him, he can leave. Zhu Changrong sighed, said nothing, and turned to look at Sun Qiniang. Sun Qiniang shrugged indifferently, but her attitude was extremely determined, I will go wherever Zhu Yun goes. Zhu Changrong gritted his teeth and said, Zhu Xiao, when we first met, I told you, right? If you set up a mountain protecting formation, we can ask Patriarch Tianji to give you a word. This agreement should be counted, right? Do the math, Mu Jianying said, you also said that I can use the elixirs in the Jidan sect as I wish. Elixirs are nothing, as long as I wish. You remember this promise. Of course I remember, but something unexpected happened at this time, I think it's better to explain it clearly. Protect the mountain formation, say a word to Patriarch Tianji. If I stay in the Jidan sect and become a disciple of the Jidan sect, then, Jidan sect let me use the pills from the Dan sect. Okay, it's settled. Zhu Changrong breathed a sigh of relief. This was still an advantage for Jidan sect, so he looked at Sun Qiniang again, what does Jian Huang mean? As for me, Zhu Yun will set up the formation and I will watch from the side. If Zhu Yun stays, I can temporarily join the Jidan sect and represent the Jidan sect in the secret realm of immortal ascension. I don't want any pills, this thing I don't care about you, but I can share the proceeds from the secret realm equally with Jidan section. What does Elder Zhu think? That's not a problem. Zhu Changrong was most afraid of the two lions opening their mouths. Who knew that the conditions proposed were ordinary, and he could make the final decision, so he smiled and said, this is the rule of the Jidan section, the secret realm of Xianxia. I only take half of the income. Of course, the so-called half means converted into spiritual stones. Sun Qiniang rolled her eyes, glanced at Mu Jiajia, and said, there is another prerequisite, that is, I will choose the income from the secret realm first, and the selected items will be converted into spiritual stones, and the final settlement will be made. Can Mujiawa curled his lips. Sun Qiniang wanted to find something useful for herself, but she still had no idea whether to stay in Jiden sect or not. It would be fine if there were no accidents. But if there is an accident, it is not that easy to run out in such a deep place. While they were talking, they had already reached the foot of Jiden Peak. At the door, several Danja disciples saw Zhu Changrong and stepped forward to greet him. "I've met Elder Zhu." Zhu Changrong waved his hand casually, and then asked, "Has the funeral of the sect master been arranged?" "It's done and has been buried in the ancestral hall." The third elder said that if Elder Zhu brings back 2 guests, they can arrange them in the main peak wing first, and then go to the sect master's hall to look for him. "Okay, I get it." After sending away several disciples, Zhu Changrong led Mu Incarnation into the Jiden sect and followed the mountain road up to the mountainside. The monks he met along the way could see a touch of sadness on their faces. It seems that this atmosphere will not go away for a while. "My dear friends, Jian Huang, please settle down here first. I will come to see you after Zhu has finished his business." Zhu Changrong led them to an independent small courtyard and said apologetically, "You're welcome, Elder Zhu. You go and do your work first. We'll just wait for you to come back in this small courtyard." Mujiawa said quickly, and Sun Qiniang also nodded. "Then Zhu goes first." Zhu Changrong turned around and left, and Sun Qiniang said, "Zhu Yun, be careful, I feel something is wrong." "Wrong? What's wrong?" Mujiawa was slightly startled, very puzzled. But thinking that I was just an incarnation, and that my soul was weaker than Sun Qiniang, there might be potential danger nearby, so I couldn't help but cheer up. "Let's talk after we enter the house. This is the territory of Jiden section. Even if there are people with evil intentions, I'm afraid they won't do it so easily, right?" Just as Muji Unying put his hand on the door panel of the small courtyard, a joking voice came over. "Who is it? It turns out to be you. Why, are you here to offer incense to the Huji Deo? It's a pity that you came late, they have already buried it." Hearing this familiar voice, Mujiajia's whole body was covered with chills. He was about to take Sun Qiniang directly into the island of Dazhu, and then use the wood escape technique to run away, but he did not expect that Sun Qiniang was one step faster than him. "Chiang." The Wind and Thunder Dragon sword was unsheathed and thrust straight into the ground in front of Sun Qiniang. She just heard her yelling, "Where are the rats sneaking around? Do you still dare to curse?" Mu's head is about to explode. "Do you know who is speaking? Interesting, Zhu Yun, you are very courageous. I didn't expect that the female cultivator who is following you is also very courageous. I really don't know how you survived until now in the spirit world." As the words fell, a figure appeared out of thin air and was already standing not far in front of the two of them. Chen Tianxiao. Transcending the tribulation period. At this time, Sun Qiniang was also shocked, but she has always been soft-spoken, and she would fight to the end even if it meant death. Because she was confident, even if she couldn't beat him, she still had something to save her life in her arms. "Little girl, your realm is not high, but your eyesight is good. Can you tell that the sect master is in the tribulation stage?" Chen Tianxiao turned his gaze back and looked at Sun Qiniang and her Wind Thunder Dragon sword. Sun Qiniang's face remained unchanged and she said calmly, "It's not that I can tell, it's because your aura is more than one level stronger than that of the monks in the Mahayana period." "I guessed it." "Oh." Chen Tianxiao raised his eyebrows and became more playful. Sun Qiniang suddenly laughed out loud and said, "Senior, don't you understand? Not long ago, I killed a Mahayana." After a while, wild laughter started. "Ha ha ha." Chen Tianxiao was unscrupulous, and his voice spread from Jiden Peak and echoed around him. "What an interesting girl." Chen Tianxiao stopped laughing and said, "Sword cultivators in the transformation stage are indeed extraordinary. You also have a sword body, and the spiritual sword in your hand is also good. But with these, the most you can do is kill the combined body. Period. Mahayana period, it's a little difficult. The implication is that Sun Qinyang is bluffing. But who would have thought that a strange smile appeared on Sun Qinyang's li?